Last year, I bought a multi-million-dollar revenue business, and the number one question I get is, how did you actually pay for it? In this video, I'm gonna walk you through how you can buy a successful cash flowing business with existing clients and employees without being rich, because that is exactly what I did. A lot of people don't think about this, but it is a lot easier to buy and build on top of somebody else's legacy than to go and create your own from scratch. I'll break down how the money side of this actually works. SBA loans, seller finance, how much money you need to bring to the table. And the most important part that nobody likes to talk about is what it feels like to take on $1 million of debt and why it's worth it. If you're new here, my name is Deshaira, and last year I bought a successful home care business. And so I've been sharing what I've learned from buying and operating it. If you're curious to know what it's really like to buy and operate a business, go ahead and subscribe, because that is exactly what this channel is all about. Get your notepads out, lock in, let's get into it. You don't need to be rich to buy a business. I actually think that that is the single biggest myth out there, because so many people assume that buying a business means that you're writing a check out of your savings for the entire cost of the business. And so people think that it's not possible. I bought a real business with a real team using financing that everyday people can use. But you have to be willing to learn how it works, and you have to be willing to take risks. Here's the truth. Most business acquisitions are not paid in cash. They're financed. Sort of the same way that everybody owns a house, but nobody pays for a house in cash, right? The money to buy a business usually comes from the business itself or from a lender who wants to see you succeed. And once I understood that, the question stopped being, how much money do I need to buy a business? And became, is this the right business and can I operate it? When it comes to buying a business, there are two main tools. Most deals use one, or they use a mix of both. The first tool is an SBA loan. SBA stands for Small Business Administration, and these are government-backed loans that are made through regular banks. Now, government-backed is the key term here, because the government is guaranteeing a chunk of this loan that the bank is willing to lend you for a business acquisition. The biggest benefit of using an SBA loan is that you're only obligated to bring 10% of the cost to the table. So not the full price, just a fraction of it. So that means the government will bring 90% of the money to the table to guarantee the business that you want to buy. So for example, if the cost of everything is $1 million, you're obligated to bring $100,000 to the table. $100,000 for a business that could make you $300,000 to $500,000 a year is an absolute no-brainer in my book. SBA loans are 10-year terms, and they're usually around 8 to 10%. So if the business is $1 million and you bring $100,000 to the table, your loan is probably gonna be around $10,000 a month. But don't let that scare you. The business is paying that money back. And the bank would not loan this money if they were not 100% sure that the business is healthy and profitable in order to pay this loan back over time. Seller finance is where the person selling the business lets you pay them over time from the money the business makes. This is powerful for two reasons. Number one, it allows you to bring less money to the closing table and you don't need as much from day one. Number two is now the seller has skin in the game. So they want you to be successful, they want the business to be successful because they're getting paid from it. So for example, if you and the seller agree to a $1 million price point, you would pay the seller over how many X years every month from the profits of the business until it's paid in full. Now you're probably thinking, why would a seller want to do seller finance when they could do an SBA and have all of the money up front? Here you go, $1 million. Well, seller financing is a really good opportunity for the seller because they don't have to pay that $1 million of taxes up front, right? When they do seller finance, they get to pay it over time in smaller and smaller chunks. That's usually really favorable for sellers. If you're looking to buy a business, seller finance is amazing. A lot of sellers don't really know the benefits of seller finance for them, so it's always something that you can use in negotiation. But most deals do use a mix of both tools. So mostly SBA and then a a little seller finance to bridge the gap. Here is one thing really early on that I wish somebody would have told me is you can go get pre-approval from SBA banks to know how much they'll actually loan you before you even fall in love with a business. If you go to an SBA lender, they're gonna look at your finances, look at your background, and they're gonna give you a rough size of what deal they would back you for. That way, when you are looking at businesses, you're not guessing and you actually have a real budget. I personally got pre-approval from 2 to 3 different SBA banks. You don't have to use every single bank, but it's nice to get the pre-approvals because everybody has a different number. Some banks said $1 million, some banks said 500,000. So it's just better to always have more connections. Here's the part nobody talks about, the emotional side of financing. You just took on $1 million. It sounds crazy, but I promise you, it's so worth it. When that loan goes into underwriting, you're kind of just, you're nervous, you're having anxiety. There's like 10 people that are basically deciding your fate. For those 2 to 3 months, it feels like you're just living under a microscope. Like you're handing over all your financials, you're telling them everything about your life, you're answering questions that you never thought you would be asked. And you're trying to do all of this while living a normal life for those 2 to 3 months without losing your mind. So here's what I want to say to you. If you're in that season of your life right now, if you're in the middle of a deal, looking at a deal, debt anxiety, those feelings are totally normal. Taking on debt like this is supposed to be heavy, but you are doing it for a reason. This is something way bigger than you. It's way bigger than me. And if I could just go back now, I would have told myself that all of that extra overthinking was so silly because it went 10 times better than I even imagined. When I got my loan approved and we actually made it to closing day and I signed that paperwork and the business was officially mine, I had a mini breakdown. My anxiety was off the charts. You know, I was afraid of losing clients, losing employees, like this just not working out. Looking back on it, I just think, wow, I was so silly. Like my concerns, they were valid, but when I took over this business, I didn't lose a single client. I didn't lose a single employee. I actually dramatically increased this business when I came on. And of course I had challenges, but the challenges made me stronger. So if you're sitting here thinking, well, okay, you know, maybe I could do this, here's where I'd start. Don't start with the loan. Okay, start with the landscape and the process. Learn the language. So when you start reaching out to brokers and you start speaking with them, you sound like you know what you're talking about, not someone who needs to be educated. Start looking at business listings. Go on Biz Buy Sell, go on Biz Scout. You know, start reaching out to lenders on there to look at financial information so you can really start to learn the landscape. And then reach out to those SBA banks so you can get a pre-approval and know, well, hey, how much business can I actually afford? That's exactly why I built the toolkit. It's the financing basics, the terms, the order everything happens in, so you can walk into a deal with clarity instead of confusion. And if you're actually in the middle of this right now, if you're looking at a deal, if you're trying to figure out your specific situation, this is actually what my clarity sessions are for. We'll hop on a call, we'll go through your numbers and figure out what works best for you in your specific situation. You don't need to be rich. You need to be informed, you need to be motivated, and you need to be willing to take risks. If business ownership, finances, and acquisitions interest you, I post on this channel weekly about buying and operating a business and the realities of that. No bullshit. I've linked the toolkit and the resources I've built below. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.